Well, it was a late night, but not as late as it could have been. Obama won with a pretty hefty mandate. The Democrats kept control of the Senate. It looks a bit like the gridlock we had before, but a relatively wide mandate for the president, considering what we thought might have happened. I mean, how are you assessing this, and what's it going to? How will it help his economic priorities?
Well, this is the thing. I mean, I think the fear was that it was going to be very divisive, and that it would be days until we found out. So, I mean, at least in terms of the Electoral College, there was a decisive victory, and I feel like that helps him at the margin. I mean, like as you said, I mean, we're pretty much still looking at a very similar makeup in Congress.
Kind of government with the House fully controlled by the Republicans, a pretty slim majority in the Senate, a couple of votes, and a president who at least did win the popular vote.
Yeah, exactly. I think, too, there's going to have to be this. I mean, we have the fiscal cliff, and we have a lot of problems. We have an unemployment rate that's too high. That, again, I think the message for both sides is going to be that you need some sort of compromise because this not getting along.
What do you think, Edward? I mean, do you think that that Agnes is right, and let's take it a bit further, that the Republicans might have learned a lesson in compromise as well as the president?
Yeah. You always hope people learn lessons. They spent the last 4 years thinking they could knock Obama out of office, and Obama spent most of the last 4 years thinking he should really win re-election. Now you've got the Republicans really have to do some soul searching. How can they ever win an election again? And Obama's got to start thinking about his legacy. Will he actually go down as the president who spent 8 years and didn't solve any of the problems in a fundamental way? He doesn't want that. Republicans don't want to be a marginalized party. So there's some hope. Still, as Agnes just said, the challenges are really pretty great. There are a lot of very severe issues in terms of the deficit.
Well, do we think the grand compromise, based on the fact that we have a fiscal, if we've created this artificial-ish kind of deadline, that's going to require some pretty serious
The odds of success
compromise
are probably greater than they would have been if we'd had that kind of really tight election. On the other hand, the political players are the same as they were before the election.
But the markets aren't necessarily telling us either way anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some adjustment going on in the markets today. I mean, I think there were some people who had felt that, again, a Romney win would probably have been good for the banks because he had promised.
Yeah, all the banks are getting killed today, and that's
exactly.
I mean, I guess there was some option value in a Romney victory and a repeal of Dodd-Frank, but
I think that's mostly noise. I mean, I think it's like, again, markets are going to do the laser focus on the fiscal cliff and to see how they handle that. I mean, I think it's unlikely that they're going to have, the solution before the end of the year, just because we're already in November and it's fairly complicated stuff and politically difficult.
I mean, there is one sort of social, but actually might become a more political business issue, which is immigration. I mean, if you look at the voting patterns, particularly Hispanics and Asians, who basically turned away from the Republicans, but it is also an economic issue. How do you gauge what happens here?
I think one of the things that the Republicans are going to have to learn if they want to not become marginalized is they're going to have to learn that you cannot throw away 10% and a growing proportion of the population with anti-immigration rhetoric. It's going to be a tough balance for their core voters, their base, but it can be done, and it means that they're going to have to start thinking a little bit more about the issues, the economic issues, the poverty issues, the immigration issues that really bother the Hispanic population.
I guess one last point is some of the big money names in the election, whether it was Sheldon Adelson or, well, Mitt Romney himself in the private equity industry that backed him, or Linda McMahon, the World Wrestling Enterprises person in Connecticut, or the Koch brothers, who backed any number of candidates who lost. It does seem that the 47% did triumph over the 1% in this respect.
It would be a bit alarming from the point of view of those who don't like plutocracy if that hadn't happened. On the other hand, it's
wait, there are people who don't like plutocracy.
But still, this was the first election after the Citizens United, right? So I don't think that necessarily. I mean, yes, there is a slight victory there in terms of over the plutocracy, but I think we're still in the early innings of this.
Right. They'll perfect the use of money as free speech.
It's not as if money didn't play a role in the election. There was a lot raised, so it could have been worse, but as in all the other topics, it could have been a lot better yet.
Well, thank you guys. We're going to be writing about that and other stuff from Breaking Views, and we'll be back with more tomorrow.